Well, a new study finding that going into menopause too early could lead to depression later in life. The doctors hope to find something that is going to help identify the women who may be at higher risk of developing depression. Dr. Samadi, I want to start with you. Before we run off and give us all the details that you have, I think you told me that we're talking, first of all, about premature menopause, but I don't know the difference between premature menopause and early menopause. Is there a difference?
Yes, there's absolutely a big difference. So the average age of women out there going into menopause is about 51. Early menopause could be a few years earlier, so it could be 45, 47, and that's when the ovaries absolutely stop working and there's no more estrogen and they see all the hot flashes and symptoms of menopause. Today we're talking about premature ovarian failure, or even better name for it scientifically is follicular ovarian insufficiencies. What does that mean? This is for women who are younger than 40-year-old. You may see a teenager who is not having any menses for about 4 months. That's the real definition. Irregular menses or no menses for about 4 months in a row at a young girl, younger than 40-year-old, is the sign of premature ovarian failure. Ovaries are not working so well. They're starting to get the migraine headaches, no menses, all of those hot flashes symptoms. Now, what's interesting about this is that it's not a complete shutdown, because about 10% of girls that have premature ovarian failure can still go on and be fertile and get pregnant.
How so?
So the ovaries can sometimes be released as a result of this. Now, what is the cause of this? 99% of the time we don't know. It's called idiopathic. But there are also people that may have their ovaries removed as a result of surgery, chemotherapy, and there are some autoimmune disease like adrenal Addison disease or thyroid Hashimoto's that can be affected. The key is to really recognize this, because emotionally this is devastating. You have a 25-year-old girl who is going into menopause and catching the depression, emotional aspect, and you need to see a real endocrinologist. How do you diagnose it? The best way is to get the blood test, because your estrogen level would be low and something called FSH, follicular stimulating hormones, are going to be high. If your FSH is high, your estrogen is low, that's probably the sign that you may be going into this.
I'm jumping at the bit to get in here for a couple of reasons. One, if you're talking about premature, you're talking about someone, you mentioned the age 18. That's quite young, and you're right, it could be devastating. Another thing, Dr. Samadi and Dr. Siegel, shouldn't you request that your doctor test your thyroid levels? Because you mentioned adrenal, that can prevent even an older woman from getting pregnant.
That's a great point. I mean, first of all, a lot of times there's a combination problem, which is autoimmune. So if you have a problem with your thyroid, it might be where you're making antibodies to the thyroid. You could be making antibodies to your ovaries. Also, you could have diabetes. These could all be related to antibodies. So that's an excellent question. Now, menopause is defined as not having a menstrual period for a year. Okay, now, as David said, there are times when that can be reversed. What I find fascinating about this study, it's in the Journal of the American Medical Association, and they looked at over 68,000 older women, rather, that were under 40. Premature menopause is under 40. Now, previously, they didn't prove that it was due to estrogen deficiency. Okay, in older women that went through menopause, that got hot flashes, just over 50, or as David mentioned, 51 is the average age. You got hot flashes, you stop having your period. You get a lot of depression happens. But you know what? They weren't able to prove that it was related to estrogen level. In younger women now, this new study is suggesting that it's due to not having estrogen to protect you for so many years. Now, I think it's two things. Arthel, I think it's the depression of not being what other women your age are doing. Psychological. Not having children, being able to have children anymore, not feeling the same as your friends. That's one thing. But the other thing is that estrogen works on the brain. And estrogen improves hormones like serotonin, dopamine, stuff that makes us feel good. So if you go into a premature menopause, you could have two things working against you. One, you don't feel right. Your body image is off. Two, you have a problem with estrogen. Maybe we can help you by replacing the estrogen.
It's devastating, because it's not just emotional. But one of the things you really have to be careful, and I want to emphasize this many times, is osteoporosis. When you go into like this premature menopause, you are going to have a very high rate of osteoporosis. So supplementing them with calcium, giving them estrogens, is absolutely necessary
to prevent it.
Well, it can slow down the process, because that protective effect of estrogen on bone, on brain, psychologically is extremely important. Number one, diagnose it. For a lot of girls who may have this, it's nothing to be embarrassed. You need to talk to your doctor. With all due respect to all the gynecologists, I think they're very smart. They can handle this. But a good endocrinologist is absolutely the key, because there could be other glands, like adrenal, like thyroid, and other things that can cause this ovarian insufficiency, is a better word than failure for these kids.
There are gynecologists, reproductive endocrinologists. Sure. You can find a specialist who's either a medical doctor like me, but is an endocrinologist, or a gynecologist who specializes in this. David's point is right. You may possibly, in some cases, be able to reverse.
Yeah, don't go to a urologist for premature ovarian failure.
Or even an internist. You have to go to a specialist.
Got it.
All right, great advice.